Hey guys, it's Zach back with another review, this time of the 7Hz Timeless 2. It's a planar magnetic IEM and the direct successor to the 7Hz Timeless. It's the most expensive IEM that I've tried to date, and the Timeless name, in my opinion, carries some weight to it as far as recommendations under $300, so I'm pretty stoked to try this out. But will I be daily driving this going forward, and is this the perfect IEM for you? Let's find out. So here we have them, the 7Hz Timeless 2, successor to the Timeless, sort of like a legendary, highly recommended planar IEM, one I've been hearing about ever since I got into this space, so I was extremely excited to try these ones out, and they impressed from start to finish. Right from the unboxing, you can see here quite the outfit you get with the Timeless 2. I was coming off a couple of ZGOT unboxings, which is very bare bones, so this is far and away more interesting, more inclusive, and quite frankly made a much better short. Real quick before we continue any further, these retail at $240. They have a single planar magnetic driver and an all metal body construction. So, as far as unboxing and accessories goes, like I said, I was very impressed. Right off the bat, let's talk about this crazy metal case. It is cylindrical, and honestly, I've used this for mouse gate friction testing, as weird as that might sound. And although the thought of this metal case is cool, in practice it's kind of annoying and a little bit non-functional. So you have to screw this off and it legitimately sounds like you're opening a jar. Then you get it off to see the top, no protection at all. So besides this one foam pad here, the IEMs are just left to rattle around and touch any edges of the case, both the sides and the top. So as much as this is a cool inclusion, it does fit both the theme of the metal shell and a great match here. Honestly, just give me this average ZGOT case and I'd be a much happier guy. Next thing to mention, it comes with both a 3.5mm as well as a 4.5mm connection. You get a plethora of ear tips here. The fact that these default ones here have 5 different sizes, pretty cool. These are a little bit shorter, and then we have these taller blue ones. Just to give you a quick comparison of the height difference there, great that they gave consideration to people with different depths of ear canals, try and find the best comfort in their ear tips. These are not one-to-one, that's not the only difference. As you can see, the construction here differs, and these ones over here are more wide bore. But as you may have guessed from previous videos, these are the ear tips that I preferred as far as fit and sound, the true silicone ones. And even at that, I ended up going with these small ones for when I was using these, but I quickly switched off to a set and fit origin. My preference is actually the medium and small. I believe I was using the mediums on this for testing. But overall, these are very comfortable. They give the best fit in my ear that I find, and I really enjoy the sound they produce. So this is what a majority of my testing on these IEMs was done with. Jumping into the cable here, this is actually much better than the ZGOT cables. I find this to be very high quality in construction. I love the sort of metallic gunmetal brown sort of mixed aesthetic to it. And the connectors on both ends sort of fit the theme of the IEM, I guess, if there were to be one. Your standard 2-pin connector here. Although I will note these were quite challenging to get out of the IEMs, and they did come pre-installed. Two great things about this cable, I found it to be not very prone to tangling, and then after being coiled up in the case, this thing basically comes out straight, does not have any memory in that regard. Sorry, yellow ear tips, which is what I'm looking for in a cable. So honestly, this is by far the highest quality stock cable I've gotten, and I had no real complaints about it. And lastly, this is my second IEM after the Simgo EW300 that has different tuning nozzles. These are the sort of gold flower ones that come pre-installed, and I did a majority of my testing on these. However, you have 4 default tuning options on this IEM. There was like a silver, not really a flower, more like a wheel, and then a silver and gold bullet. So the fact that you have 4 different tuning options, really awesome. Always love an inclusion like this, and I'll talk more about how these affected sound later in the video. As far as the shell design goes, it is very unique. It's a full metal construction here. For me, this circular shape did not cause any ear discomfort, but I could see that being a thing. For comparison, here's the size of the ZGOT Lush. This is a little bit larger of a footprint as far as the circle goes on the top, the sort of the circle faceplate here. And then again, just entirely different on the back end. This sort of contours very nicely to the ear. This sort of stands alone and really goes for aesthetic. I will say, neither the size of the plate here, nor the contouring on the inside really caused any discomfort for me over long listening periods. I use this for multiple episodes of Mousecast, and did not really cause any discomfort, but I could definitely see this being a very non-standard shape that could cause discomfort for some, so if you're looking into buying this, do be aware of that. Also take note of this sort of seal line here on the IEM, if that's something that might bother you. And then as far as vents, you can see those 3 there right next to the R for the right, and then the camera's having a hard time picking it up. There it is, one little tiny one right here, but I did not have any issues with pressure buildup while using these IEMs. And then as far as the nozzle construction goes, very much dead on average size as far as diameter, a little bit smaller than the Lush and Odyssey from ZGOT, for example. And then to bring in the main competition here, we have the Kiwi ears Aethers, another set of planar IEMs, still rocking their stock cable, and will be the main point of reference for my comparisons of sound in this video. These guys have some big honking shells, but we're talking nozzles right now. And as you can tell right here, slightly larger on the Aether. So again, I call these average to a little bit larger on the Aether and the Odyssey and the Lush, and these are just a little bit dead on average on the smaller side of that. So really the width of these should not cause any discomfort for anyone. And again, Aether is known to have a really large shell, huge footprint. So as you can see, depending on your ear construction, the overall size of this one, much smaller, not very deep. This is a big bulbous side here, but the footprint of the circular part here, still quite large. So from my perspective, style rating on these pretty strong. You could say the muted black might not pop, but if you see here, the light really reflects off of them and draws attention with that nice texturing, sort of like rigid, very like dull down spike design. I do think that the Timeless 2 text on the outside here is just sort of tasteless. It's just not the best font. It looks a little flat, just not the most interesting to me. I would have gone in another direction, probably just left it off entirely or added a slight accent color to the side of this. But otherwise, again, this is the most unique aesthetic that I've seen on an IEM by far. I really enjoy the aesthetic. I think they stand out. So for me, these are the highest rated aesthetic of an IEM that I reviewed, but still probably only an 8 out of a 10. I'm waiting for the IEM to come by and just absolutely knock it out of the park style-wise. Plus 0.5 points for matching the case, minus 0.5 points for how much I didn't really like the case in use. So coming to the tuning graphs here, and shout out Hangout Audio for providing these awesome graphs. We have the Aether here in green and the Timeless 2, the gold flower default installed tuning nozzle in red. As you can see, much more of a bass boost, specifically in the sub bass here on the gold flower, on the Timeless 2. Generally similar mids with some nuances, as well as a distinctive dip here in the bass. As you can see from the charts here, V-shaped or V-shaped leading, a little bit stronger on the bass as far as the Timeless 2, but in a lot of ways I did find these to sound somewhat similar overall. There are definite nuances, and we'll get into those a little bit later in the video, but I can see the average person definitely not picking up on too many differences between these two IEMs. So as far as my impression of the sound goes, we'll start with the bass, and the part of the bass that really stands out to me, you can sort of see this in the tuning, is the sub bass. It just has that sweet, sweet rumble, leading toward bass head territory, but not really off the charts in my opinion. Shout out to a review by Headphony that brought the song Akam, I believe it's called, by Monolake to my attention. I'd never heard of this band or this song before, but I would say this is the first time I've felt a legitimate rumble from the sub bass in my ears with an IEM, which is a pretty cool experience to have. But even though this was a deep rumble of the bass, it wasn't really like muddied at all. It was a very clean, crisp presentation from the Planar driver. I wouldn't say that the mid bass is lacking by any means, but it just didn't stand out to me as much as the sub bass. So overall, a good bass presentation from the Timeless 2, which tracks with that V-shaped tuning. Moving into the mids, definitely less emphasized than the bass. And I would say a little bit more vocal forward here. Not like this is a entirely vocal forward IEM, but just as far as presentation in the mids goes, particularly with the Planar IEMs that I've listened to, this is more vocal leaning in that area. Otherwise, instruments in general were presented relatively naturally to my ear at least. And then getting into the treble, it was definitely elevated a bit beyond natural levels and had that standard Planar presentation. It wasn't maybe quite as detailed as I would have liked it to be, and I'll talk about why I had that impression here in a little bit. Nothing was really unpleasant, no awful peaks, no real harsh sounds came across, so very well done there. And just maybe a slight unnatural sound, as always, using Defying Gravity as a reference, and the cymbals in that song. Not entirely what I'm accustomed to hearing in that part, but still a very pleasant presentation there. So overall, the tuning of this was pretty pleasant for me. A nice V-shaped tuning. As far as the tuning nozzles go, this sort of silver flower wheel one here, I found put a little bit more emphasis on the treble and let the bass fall a little bit more to the background. Maybe a bit of harshness in the treble, but nothing too crazy. This gold dome bullet, whatever you want to call it, was, I guess, the most bass dominant of all of the tuning nozzle options. And just overall, this is just a more fun, poppy, lively, just kind of kick it in the ass nozzle. This one was a bit fatiguing over time, I'll be honest with you. And then the silver kind of bullet, I would say the opposite of that, more of a relaxed, chill experience. Definitely won't fatigue you over time. Sort of let the bass recess a little bit. A much more relaxed listening experience than the gold bullet. So these two are, in my opinion, sort of foils to each other. Overall, I just like the standard gold flower one that comes pre-installed here. So I agree with 7 Hertz on which one they probably assume most people would like. Call me basic, call me what you want. That's my impression of the tuning nozzles. I did sort of just pop them back in here for presentation, but really cool. You can just sort of easily twist them out, but they do lock right back into place. Nice little feature so you don't ever lose them. And then talking about imaging and Soundstage, I found imaging to be superb on these, actually very, very good. Even with the V-shaped tuning, that emphasis on the bass and the treble, not really muddying anything out, still allowing it to identify the origination of sound on a track, like the bass nectar remix of Ellie Goulding's Lights, for example. Pretty hype track, one I like to use for that purpose. And then the Soundstage, I guess I'll jump right into the Aether with this. I found the Soundstage on the Timeless 2 to be a little bit wider than that on the Aether, but pretty similar overall. Probably not much to write home about in difference there. Neither of these have a small soundstage by any means as far as IEMs go. Overall, like I said before, you could call the Aether V-shaped, a little less so than Timeless 2, at least in the graphs, but overall their sound to me was relatively similar, with some key differences I'll note here. Like I said, and you saw in the graphs, there's more of a sub-bass emphasis on the Timeless 2, but I did enjoy the overall bass presentation of the Aethers more than the Timeless 2 throughout the entire spectrum of bass. While the mids did emphasize vocals a bit more on the Timeless 2, there was more like a smoother presentation in the Aether, and just a slightly warmer sound both there and overall. But really beyond the sound, there's different use cases for who's going to pick up each of these IEMs. The Aether is already, I think, $50 or $60 cheaper by default, but then you consider the fact that I got this for like $120 on Amazon on sale, which is a full half price discount off the Timeless 2. I think for the average person, the easy recommendation here is the Aether. It's just really hard to justify spending twice as much when you can get similar, and honestly, some may just prefer the Aether straight up, myself included, which honestly might have something to do with the shell. As much as I said there wasn't discomfort here, the fact that it was all metal and a little bit larger, just like for something in my head made me not want to put this in my ear when I was doing casual work, casual listening, but I didn't have that problem with the Aether, even though it has this larger, deeper shell. That's not to say I didn't really enjoy my time on the Timeless 2. It's just I probably find myself sticking with the Aether as my main. But beyond that, like I said, there's a use case for both of these. The Timeless 2, obviously, if you like the Timeless, I think you'll have a good time on the Timeless 2 as well. And if you're someone who likes a good unboxing, a more premium feeling product, like this definitely feels more premium premium. This is a very bare bones package here with the Aether. Here you get this awesome metal case, should you like that. The cable here is superior, many more ear chips to choose from, and then the fact that you have tuning nozzle options is pretty cool as well. So for more of the pure audio enthusiast, someone who likes to tweak, someone who likes to mess around, someone who just wants like a more premium feeling, almost exotic experience, I would say that person goes to the Timeless 2. But my general de facto recommendation between these two is going to be the Aether. That about wraps up for my thoughts on the 7Hz Timeless 2. Very cool, unique, stylish IEM, one that I was really looking forward to trying. Overall, I had a great time with these. These would easily be my main daily driver as far as planar goes if it wasn't for the Aether that I already have. It might be the nostalgia, it might be the fact that that was the first over $100 IEM that I got, but I'm just partial to the Aether's sound and I really like it personally. I do think there's a chance that this would appeal to a more wide audience. Like I said, particularly those like to tinker, make use of these different tuning nozzles here because they really do have an impact on the sound and performance of the IEM. But overall, a very complete package here presented by 7Hz. Should you want to pick this up, check out the link in the description below. It supports me and helps quite a bit. Beyond that, follow me on X at DasherZach. Join up my peripheral server. We talk about mice like this, glass pads like this, everything else all day long. Check out the Mousecast podcast. And with that, we'll see you.